Welcome to the Punks in Pubs podcast. My name is Liam Bird and thank you for listening to this podcast. We have an excellent episode for you this week, but before that, I want to tell you about my experience at Manchester Punk Festival. Punks in Pubs was representing at the festival over the weekend, over the Easter weekend. You can find out a little bit more about the festival if you like. Go back and listen to the last episode, episode 35, whereabouts we talk about Manchester Punk Festival with the organisers of Manchester Punk Festival. So while we were there, we conducted 2 live interviews. The first interview was actually with 2 stand-up comedians who were at the show, who happen to also be punk fans. They are Sully O'Sullivan and Red Redmond. Great interviews if you like comedy and punk. And the second interview was with Joe Tilston. You'll know Joe as the bassist and singer in Random Hand. He's now following his destiny as a folk singer. He's got a great backstory with his family. Are so entrenched in the folk music scene, it's crazy. Those interviews were conducted at the festival. We had issues recording them live. The idea was that I was going to record them and put them out as standalone episodes. I'm not going to do that anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put them out. I'm thinking about putting one out next week, and then we'll have the regular episode that I've got planned, and then I'll put out another bonus episode next week. So I'm just going to kind of put them out there, not as an episode number, just for you guys to listen to. Because of the issues with the audio, I kind of had to do it a bit guerrilla style. So the interview itself isn't the most cleanest interview with audio, but it's not completely wrecked, so that's why I want to give it to you, because the interviews I did conduct were great and we got some real good content, and I'll put it out there. If you listen to it, you listen to it. If you don't, you don't. It is what it is. Also, thank you to the people who came down into a dark basement in Manchester when it was beautiful weather. Thank you for coming down and listening to me waffle. Greatly appreciated. It was the first time we had done anything like this. It's a great experience for me. I'll learn from it. I'll get better, as I've been trying to do with this podcast, continue to get better. The festival itself was a blast, and big up all the bands who were at the festival. All the bands who I saw, they just brought their A game. No one was going through the motions. Everyone was just fucking having a blast. Last thing I'm going to say about the festival is a big thank you to all the guys and girls who give up their time 8 months in advance to create this fantastic weekend of punk comedy and poetry, and an all-round fucking great experience. This festival is a DIY festival in the truest sense of the word, working with their local businesses and working with underground bands and mainstream bands to bring about just a fucking amazing experience with a great vibe. Definitely go to Manchester Punk Festival 2020, fucking hell. Early bird tickets for that festival will be going up around autumn, so keep an eye on the Manchester Punk Festival social media accounts, or just follow Punks in Pubs as well, and we will obviously retweet anything that they put out. Anyway, let's talk about Punks in Pubs. Punks in Pubs will be going to Germany, Berlin in fact, in June, to do a couple of interviews over there. To do that, we need to raise a little bit of money. We don't ask for handouts on Punks and Pubs, but what we do is that we ask for you to support the podcast by buying a Punks and Pubs t-shirt. They cost £15, and they can be purchased at Etsy. Just type in Punks and Pubs in the search engine and you'll see the t-shirt. Or you can drop me an email on punksandpubs@gmail.com, and you can pay by PayPal. I'm the one who's funding this podcast. It's only me who's doing this. I only have a finite amount of money that I can actually put into this podcast. And by buying a t-shirt, it really helps me with the overheads of the podcast. And it also kind of shows me that you guys actually care about the podcast and what I'm doing, because that's the reason why I'm doing this. I know you're listening because I can see the numbers. It'd be great if you can support, dig deep a little bit, and help the podcast be bigger and better. And also, by wearing the t-shirts, you're also promoting the podcast, which allows other people to come up to you and go, hey man, what's the podcast about? And you go, hey, it's called Punks and Pubs. It's about a fucking guy who did a podcast and now we're just listening to it. It's alright. Then the people who I interview then get a bigger audience, and then the punk grows and we grow and we all grow together. And that's the punk ethic for me, is that we're all in it together. We're all one big punk family. We're all trying to fucking push this message that is punk, whatever that may be to you, because I'm not going to start getting into what punk means to me, because that's a fucking dumb question. Anyway, You didn't download this podcast to hear me rant about a question I don't like. You downloaded episode 36 of Punks and Pubs for this fine reason. Episode 36 is me in a bar in North London, sat down having an alcoholic beverage with a good guy and a master of thrash metal. His name is Ryan Waste of Municipal Waste. I met Ryan back in late January, I think, and we sat down and we discussed all manners of shit, like the now infamous Trump t-shirt. We also talk about Mr. Pickles, the Adult Swim cartoon. Ryan relives a crazy story of a time when he was a taxi driver in Richmond, Virginia. You do not want to miss that story. We talk about scrapping albums. We talk about killing new metal. And I push Ryan on how a metal kid with long hair falls in with a crowd of skinhead hardcore crews. We of course talk about the Waste. We also talk about Ryan's other band Bat and music in general, but I also dig into Ryan's other loves that are horror and comedy. We end the podcast with Ryan sharing a story with me about my old boss Mike Davies of the Radio 1 Punk Rock Show. I never heard this story. It's great to hear. It is a proper nice little moment to end the podcast. As always, your band close out the show, and this week it's a band from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, and they are called CC Potato, and they are worth sticking around for. I said that without real conviction. They really are good. Definitely stick around for them. But before that, there is this. Good people of punk, I present to you episode 36 with me and Ryan Waste. I will talk to you after this chat. Enjoy. We are propped up in a bar next to the Astoria, and across from me is a man who is metal as fuck. His name's Ryan Waste. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you. You might need to speak up a little bit.
Okay, because obviously I've got my cans on, so I'm good.
Yeah.
So you're playing like a hardcore dayer, which is quite rare now in the UK. There are not really that many around. For you as a band, do you enjoy them? Can you like hang around, and that either means early drinking or just hanging in the bus?
I really don't like to do anything early. I'm a night person, so I do most of my hanging out and thinking, creating at night. And I don't really even like to talk to people until about 2 p.m. So you just made the cut on that.
We've got a threshold in there.
Yeah.
So, as always, I like to try and bring a gift for the people I'm talking to. And
the cider,
and also this, man. I'm sure you've already seen it before.
Should I open it now?
Yeah, go for it, man. You put down the mic.
Mic or something? Yeah. Oh, looks. I can already see the Iron Maiden logo.
See, I'm sure if you've been in the UK, you've definitely had a pint of this before.
Yeah, the Trooper.
Good old Trooper, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's just like an easy drink and it's basically like a lager, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you got that, and I thought,
great. Thanks, man.
This isn't wrapped up, but it is cold. I thought a very British one. It's Earl Grey beer.
Baron. Earl Grey. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I love the tea. My girl loves it. She's got a candle that's Earl Grey, and we burn it. So maybe I'll give this to her.
There you go. Gifts all around, man.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
So can you remember the first time you actually had your first beer?
Yeah, I think I had stole one of my dad's beers. It was probably like a Miller Genuine Draft, which you don't see so much. You see a lot of High Life, but MGD, as I would say. I started drinking pretty young. I kind of ran with a more delinquent crowd, and we would go and do this thing called shoulder tapping, where you just go to a gas station and tap someone that's old enough to buy you beer, and then go drink it under a bridge somewhere.
Yeah. So it wasn't like drinking with your family first. It was drinking with your friends.
No, they weren't big partiers, so I had to go kind of find that on my own.
What was the culture around drinking? Because I'm always fascinated with how people got introduced into alcohol. Was it like, let's drink and be a bit radical and a bit crazy, or was it let's drink to find out what it tastes like?
We would drink just to get as inebriated as possible, starting at a young age. So I mean, I definitely had some bad experiences where you don't realize like you're drinking hard liquor in the middle of the day, like gin or something, just straight, and then next thing you know you're in the woods just puking your guts out. And I mean, I had all the experiences early on, so I became a seasoned professional pretty young.
So did you grow up in Richmond, Virginia then?
No, Virginia Beach, Virginia, which is more southeast on the coast. It's a long stretch of beach, so it's a real tourist town.
Yeah.
But really trashy too at the same time, and not much of a music scene. So the minute I turned 18, I got the hell out of there. Moved to Richmond.
So is it one of those towns whereabouts during the season, a lot of people, then when it
over the summer, and it's just fights and dickheads and shit. I go back because I have family there. There's nowhere I would really choose to live.
So with music, was it the same with your friends with drinking? Was it your friends who?
Well, what's funny is we were like the few metalheads in our school. They called us grits, which was like I guess it was only like an East Coast term because I never really heard anywhere else. And we smoked weed and listened to heavy metal, and there was like a small group of us, and no one really messed with us, but we were kind of outcasts, obviously, at the same time. My friends had a band, and that's what got me wanting to play music. They were pretty talented for being their age, and it made me get a bass and just to try to join their band. But of course I never got in, but just kept going.
Yeah. So what was it about metal then? Why did metal grab your attention?
Well, me and my brother got into it early on. I think it was just the aggression, the just like cutting loose and just getting away from the norm of society. It seemed like it fit with like our outcast behavior.
So was it something you heard on TV or a radio or?
We were listening to a lot of tapes back then, so we would be tape trading, like cassettes. And my brother would come home with some stuff. We'd even go to the library and rent cassettes.
Would you prefer older, younger?
He's older, 2 years older. Yeah. And then I got so deep into it, I surpassed him and was digging and finding stuff. We got into records and never stopped. I'm still an avid collector. Like I DJ records and never stopped. I'm just as much of a fan as I am a performer.
So what was it about like records then? Why not tapes?
Well, tapes, it's funny because records were first, but when you're younger, tapes was portable and you could have a Walkman and go around with it. And then I found a love for vinyl in like my mid to late teens, and just having the big artwork and be able to hold it seems like something tangible, something you could just grip onto. And artwork was a big thing that drew me to metal as well.
We're going to talk a little bit about artwork later on because
of course,
your band.
We got Eddie right here.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to understand is how did like a self-proclaimed metalhead all of a sudden find hardcore? Like, what was it? A show that you went to where it was like a mixed bill?
We I had some friends that would go into Norfolk, which was more like the inner city from Virginia Beach, and they had these DIY hardcore shows, and I was probably the only long-haired person there. And it was cool. It was a real transitional moment for me where you could see people putting on a show. It wasn't a concert. There weren't tickets. You could go there and see bands, and the kids were like my age playing, And a couple of my friends had a band called Blade Crasher, and they were just like go all out. People would be jumping off the stage and a lot of like interaction with the crowd. I think that had a big effect over me. I'm still friends with the guys to this day, and they're not doing much musically, but I think it inspired me that it didn't have to be, there wasn't a real separation for metal and hardcore, at least for me, because everyone kind of accepted me there, and it wasn't pretentious. It was just real stripped down. It was like this place called the Basement, and people would just go crazy. Of course, I'm drinking a 40, and it's all these straight edge guys there, but for some reason, they didn't mess with me. I don't know. It was cool. I could have probably had the whole show shut down, being like a 14-year-old kid drinking a 40 ounce, but. It's a real coming up period for me, and I took what I knew from metal and learning about hardcore, and I kind of just blended it all in together, when I came up with the Waste.
So what about with like the political aspect of hardcore? Because I'm going to guess out of metal, because I'm not a metal kid. I grew up with like Meatloaf. That was probably as heavy as it got.
Meatloaf's good. Meatloaf's very theatrical. It's almost metal, I feel like.
I fucking love Meatloaf, man. But it was like, for me, the thing that kind of attacked, like hardcore, the first hardcore show I went to was actually how political it was. So like how politics played its part in like going to a show. Mm-hmm. Was that the same for you, like the difference between a metal show and a hardcore show?
I didn't run into a lot of the politics stuff till I moved to Richmond, and you would see bands, I hate to say preach, but it seems like it sometimes, and with the Waste, we were never about that. We saw so much of that coming up, and people seemed so uptight that we wanted to have fun and just play music, and I think that's what set us apart from a lot of the hardcore bands we played with. And we would like make fun of it, and But I mean, you kind of get older and you want to take a political stance. Like, what's going on in the country right now is horrible, So of course we have our shirt with Trump blowing his brains out.
Again,
that sums it up right there. I don't like to get into it because it's just a mess right now, but people know where we stand with that.
So how did you make the jump? How did you decide then that I'm going to pin my mass down the metal thrash route rather than going into a punk hardcore music? Or did you?
Well, we just blended it together. I mean,
Yeah.
we never took one side. Like the beauty of crossover and what we play. I think it's the best of both worlds. You have a more hardcore punk attitude with metallic riffs. And it's just like you're not rock stars. You keep it on a punk level, real grounded, but maybe you know how to play your songs.
Yeah. So when you are playing like a mixed bill like you are tonight, do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy?
We thrive on that.
Yeah.
Like even when we put a tour together, we never just take all thrash metal bands. Like we actually have never done that. We'll bring a punk band, a heavy metal band, hard rock, and just mix it up because it's nothing worse than seeing the same type of music over and over again all night.
Yeah.
So diverse bill is like our favorite thing to be a part of.
So how did you end up meeting Tony then?
Tony, I mean, Richmond's a small town, so I mean, he was in a band called JRS that I used to see in basements, and he was a little older than me, and I always thought he was a really good front man, and I had this idea for Municipal Waste. I was working with a drummer. He actually moved to California, and we had talked about maybe doing a band, but he moved to California, and he came back, and I had the Waste going already, and he had started up another similar project that didn't really come to fruition. And I had the Waste, and he was like the only guy that knew about the Waste. And I was like, hey, why don't you just sing for us? Just combine forces, And it just came pretty organically, There wasn't a lot of people doing that music at the time. It was either like hardcore or like straight edge hardcore in the town, or just like emo indie rock stuff. There wasn't a lot of metal or.
So what year was this?
Punk. This is 2000.
Okay.
So new metal was happening, and I made a point to crush all that because this shit was ridiculous. It's not metal. It's a disgrace, really. So we came out to get rid of that.
Have you played any bills with new metal shows? 'Cause I'm sure you
Only
must have, man.
festivals in Europe, and I mean I have a good sense of humor. I look at that stuff as comedy, and I will watch a show and just laugh my ass off. So sometimes it's funnier to see that shit. Like we played with like Limp Bizkit and bands like that, and sometimes it's like the funniest shit. You're just like, it's just a whole different level of stupidity.
Many years since I was going through the cell. My feelings from the electrocution with the caliber. The clock is slowly getting closer to the final time. It's time to the gym. The funny thing required. My last meal's getting colder, but I'm now on the side. I looked down the hall at the infinite tube, and waiting for this very night. My last tried to win by the bastard, as if I had went to the start. A moment away before they strap me in, and bullets will flow through my heart, flow through my heart. The war is stressing in, flashes me a with the grit. Their lives are to me ain't a thing. I knew my life would live for something that I never did. Nothing just to switch away. I made this family cheers, the killer left me free for years. Heart is for another's crime. My job is brought me up, my gas is just a victim of the wrong place at the wrong time. No matter what's walking the streets, a life here inside is sound. A change of distance, deadly mistake, a second back up for you kill. More warriors and more enemies, and witnesses of fear and lie. These fools think it's when they see their mistakes, and L&B won't run and fly, won't run and fly.
So you kind of mentioned how like Richmond, Virginia is quite small.
It still is. It's a small community. The music community, everyone knows each other, and it's not pretentious. I mean, there's people that are in Guar and other bands that are really doing well for themselves, but it's a cheap town to live in. If you want to be an artist, you can still own a house and live off music, which is a very rare thing.
I was going to say, is it like just the people are more open to going to a show?
Yeah, I mean, there's shows every night. I mean, a lot goes on in such a small town. I mean, the arts and music scene's so thriving, there's never a dull moment. So it seems like a big city, but it's just, you can walk everywhere. It's pretty incredible.
So you were playing, how long were you playing as a band until you started stepping out from Virginia?
We went on tour right out of the gate. I mean, we jumped in a van, after our first show on New Year's Eve, 2001, and we just went down to Florida, and then we would just jump on tours, jump on shows, and we just kind of hit the ground running. you know, we did 2 U.S. tours. We came over to Europe in 2004 for the first time. Signed to Earache, which is out of the UK, and that really brought our following to another level over here in England. And it's still one of our best like markets to play.
Yeah.
I hate sounding like market, you know, but you know what I mean. People get it here, and you know, so we really appreciate that. We always want to come back. So I mean, yeah, like it only took about 3 or 4 years since we were a band to like really get moving, and we just have never stopped. I think that's what the secret to our success is. We never really slowed down.
And do you feel because you did just head first go at it, like you make your own mistakes on the way?
Yeah, and it flew by. I mean, I call it time traveling, man. I mean, we've been a band almost 20 years now, and it's just like it just went by so fast. Seems like yesterday, to not sound cliche, you know.
What was the moment then that you were all together, you were playing, and you went, we're actually onto something here? Like, can you remember when you were
Say the question again?
Can you remember like when you were on stage and you were all like playing to a crowd and you thought, fuck, okay, we're actually onto something good here. This isn't just a fuck around band in Virginia. This is actually legit. This could be something.
Yeah, I mean, it happened so organically. I mean, our first show was at a house and people just started jumping all over each other, like from the first note. I think it had been something that had been unleashed in people that they were lacking, you know. I mean, I'm not saying we were great right out of the gate. I mean, we were, you know, this was the first band I ever played guitar in, you know. I was just kind of making it up as I went. And I mean, once we got Dave and Phil, like around 2004, 2005, that's when it seemed to become more professional, you know. We were on a legit label, and touring. We were doing more world touring, and then like we came back with money in your pocket for once, and you're like, wow, we could really do this. Because we had no management, and we weren't paying anyone anything. We were just doing it ourselves, and then we saw the pound doubled our money when we came back. We were like, wow. And it's not just about the money, you know, but it was a really eye-opening experience, you know, to come back. It was like the second European tour. The first one we lost our ass.
Yeah.
You kind of have to do that, do a DIY run, and just you work for beer basically, which we were fine with at that point in our career.
Well, you kind of mentioned the fact that when Dave and
Phil and Dave,
when they joined, you said that the band kind of really took off, but you already had that momentum. So was it a bit disappointing when 2 members did leave?
Well, it was a real shame because my best friend was the bass player, and he left because he had to get off drugs. You know, and he's doing great now. He's a teacher. He's like 10 years sober.
Oh, awesome.
Still one of my best friends. And then our drummer passed away years after, who had left, and he was just kind of on a spiral heading down, you know, drugs as well eventually, and it's just a real shame, you know. I mean, so they wouldn't have been able to make it to the level that we got at, but we already, the charm was there and the energy was there, and we had established what Municipal Waste was with our old lineup, and the new guys came in and just brought a sense of professionalism that me and Tony had, but we were still just kind of having fun, but it kind of whipped us into shape a little bit, at least Dave, because Dave is older and, you know, had been in a lot of touring bands and just kind of whipped us into shape a little bit.
So with that then, you kind of spoke about how the band were enjoying themselves, having a laugh.
Yeah.
Because with hardcore, it does have that kind of macho image. Mm-hmm. And I feel something that if I was going to introduce anyone to a hardcore crossover band, it would be yours, because it is fun. And I feel music should be fun. But if you go to a hardcore show, it could just be full of pretentious, big fucking people who just want to punch people in the face because that's what they believe they should be doing.
And we're running into some of that on this tour, and you just got to shake them up a little bit and let them have fun. Yeah, I mean, that was been the goal, you know, just since the get-go, you know. Let's just, like, it's entertainment, you know. There's no tough guy image, you know. If we see a fight, we'll stop the show and make fun of them until they feel stupid about themselves, you know.
What about bands, though? Because bands are also like that. Bands can also come out, like, hardcore bands can be, like, really serious and feel like we shouldn't be having fun, like this is a job and we've got a message and all that kind of
sounds horrible.
Of course it does, but like you must have toured with them, so are you like, as more now like the veterans, like you said, 20 years has passed, do you hand down the image or do you just like go, oh, look, you
Well, you know what's
fools.
funny is even bands like that off stage, they have fun. Like there's a lot that goes on that's not, you know, that people don't see. Like, you know, we'll sit and hang out with a straight edge band, have the time of our lives, just joking around, you know. it's not about drinking or not drinking or your politics. Like I think when you share that camaraderie of being on the road and doing this day in day out, and it's like it's not always easy, and you got to have some laughs on and off the stage. So we've toured with all types of bands, and you'd be surprised who's more fun than and sometimes it's the band that puts on this party image. They're on their phones and they're being nerds when they get backstage. So you'd be real surprised.
For me, and I think from when I was working on the punk show, it was the art of partying, which seemed to really bring people into the band that probably wouldn't have realised that you were around before.
Yeah.
Why do you think that album in particular is kind of like an entry?
Well, people call that our breakthrough record, and I think it definitely was for I guess popularity. It's definitely over here. I mean, the label was really pushing it. They almost pushed the party image too much to where we got sick of it, where it was like, a goofy thing that we did. There's a fine line with that, with clever and stupid, as they say. So we, we embraced it, but a lot of it was the label pushing that. I mean, we had an album called The Art of Partying, so we dug our own grave with that, but the label pushed it a little too hard, and I think it got a little out of hand. But I mean, people, hey, if that's where people found out about the band, then more power to it.
Like you said, the label really pushed the goofy, drunken image. Was that something you were very aware of? Did you feel like people weren't taking you seriously enough, or were you okay, we let's just fucking do this to sell records?
Well, you kind of have to embrace it. I mean, we did a record after Art of Partying called Massive Aggression. It was supposed to be our quote unquote serious record. And I mean, and that was kind of a tongue-in-cheek too. It's we never got serious.
Yeah.
I mean, we're serious about our songwriting, of course, but we're having fun. But I mean, it's weird, man. You really just need to create press for yourself. So they go, oh, this is your growing up, and this is your serious record. Oh, that's your party record. I mean, really, the press just needs something to talk about.
Yeah. So how do you find doing interviews then? Do you enjoy it? Do you find it
it's a bit like this? I enjoy because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and then it's about music or something interesting. I'm all about it. I have no problem talking to people. When you get the same question over and over again, it gets a little mundane.
Yeah.
But
how's the tour going?
What's the craziest thing that's ever happened on tour? That's always our favorite. And I just make up something. This isn't bad. I haven't had to do a lot of interviews on tour. I'm a little sick right now, but it's the last day. I'm happy to be in London. So you gave me a cider. I mean, I can't complain. And a couple of beer presents, Maiden beer.
Take them home. You were known for a band who was banging out albums, 2 years every album, and then you went on a little stint for 5 years. And I've seen interviews where you spoke about that you created an album and then just scrapped it, and then you released your album. In doing that, there's money behind that, and then there's also creativity that's gone through that. Was that because in the interviews it sounds like it was quite an easy decision, but was it really that easy?
I think we really needed a break. We were going nonstop touring, and every time we would have a tour cycle, we'd be writing an album in between it, recording it, listening to mixes on the road, and mastering, and sometimes stuff would go wrong, and we were just feel like we were rushing sometimes. So I think part of it, besides scrapping the record, which is true, we came back, some of the songs made it through, got reworked, and some riffs were kept, but a lot of it just we felt too rushed before, and the label wasn't breathing down our neck to put it out, so we just took our time. This stuff wears on you. People think it's a pretty easy gig, but I mean, it's nonstop. So we kind of just took our time and wrote it, and we were happier with the record, because we waited, actually.
Yeah.
And then we got an EP we just finished too, so we're coming out with something even sooner after this. Plus we got Nick on board, my best friend who's playing second guitar now, and we could write stuff for two guitars now, which we couldn't before. So that came into play as well.
So someone I'm not musically talented at all.
Yeah.
So when you get a second guitarist, do you feel kind of a bit of weight off your shoulders?
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's going to be more of the lead guitar player. I always grew up playing bass and just rhythm guitar parts. I never fancied myself as a virtuoso lead guitar player. So just having that element now is great.
Yeah.
Because I can just kick it over to him. But we just lock in together. We play in Bat and we play in Vulture together. We're used to playing. So our our instruments just lock in without thinking, really. Simple transition.
A bit of a taboo subject, because you're a band who has toured and toured and toured. I wonder if you mind talking about pay-to-play bands.
Oh yeah, we're completely against it.
Because I don't think it's spoken about enough in music journalism or podcasts.
Yeah, probably not.
Because people just presume that a band are invited to come and play from the headliner, and then everyone's a big happy family, which isn't the case.
No.
So have you been forced a band to play on your bill? I'm not asking you to name names.
No, check this out. We have in our contract that we won't play with the pay-to-play bands.
Okay.
We absolutely don't do it.
So how do you stop it then? How do bands stop it from happening?
Put it in your contract, like us. Like in the U.S. especially, they try to do that all the time, and it's in our booking agent's deal that we don't do it, because you just get this band that's out of touch, and if that's how you get people to get to your music, that's fine. Do it on your own time. We're not down with it.
Yeah.
It's usually these promoters that are just trying to make a buck and making people sell tickets. You actually feel bad for the band. It's really the promoter that's just like not in touch with the music scene, can't promote, so he just gets some band to foot some of the bill. I think it's really sad.
I mean, music scene is a small industry as well. Everyone knows everyone usually.
Yeah.
So what about those bands that are known for being paid to play? Do they get a stigma? But like you said, it's not their really fault. It's not.
No one
really
knows who no one's never going to know who they are, because they're broke and then they stop playing.
They've gone. So slightly off topic.
Yeah.
Mr. Pickles.
Okay.
I fucking love Mr. Pickles.
Right on.
And you guys did a tour promoting Mr. Pickles, the new season. How the fuck did that happen?
Well, I'm very close friends, actually we all are, with the creators of that show. They're from Richmond.
Oh, really? Okay.
They did our first music video, Unleash the Bastards, is Will and Dave. They had a company called Day by Day. They moved from Richmond to LA, pitched a bunch of shows, and that was the show that stuck, Mr. Pickles. And they had asked us to do stuff a while back. That one just kind of fell into place, even before Exodus was on it. And we were like, yeah, we'll do a tour. Let's promote it through Adult Swim. And they go, oh yeah, and Exodus is on it too. So we're just like, even better, because that's like our favorite band to play with and tour with, So yeah, it was just an all-around good situation. It got promoted on a different level. I think we helped their show. They helped our band. They even put my other band, Bat, is on Mr. Pickles, the third season.
Oh, really?
Music, and and I got a lot of YouTube hits from that. They're like, we came here because of Mr. Pickles. I like that people comment, they have to tell me that. But it's nice, it knows that it works,
Yeah.
Cross promotion.
So is that like your vibe for comedy? Like the Adult Swim kind of stuff?
Some of that stuff. I like some of the absurd stuff, like the Tim and Eric stuff. I really like.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about cartoons, but as far as that goes, that's some of the best stuff. And it's my friends doing it, so I totally support it.
So what about comedy? Like, are you?
I'm a huge comedy fan.
Real awesome stand-ups. Who are you?
I love Stephen Wright. Like, we're gonna go old school.
Yeah.
Like real dry, monotone, joke after joke. The newer guy named John Daly, I really like. This dude Tom Segura is like a good new one. I love the old British comedy too, Monty Python and Bo Selecta and like Little Britain and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could go on and on about comedy.
Well, just because I'm a huge comedy fan,
Same.
and one of my bucket lists is to do a like an open mic and have a crack.
I think you could do it, man.
Well, you're very kind. I don't think I can.
I'm looking at you with a mic in your face right now. It looks natural, man.
just like a joke is what you're saying to me right there. It's
hilarious.
Is that something you would ever do?
I've done it before.
Have you?
I just got up there. I mean, it's like we would go to these the Comedy Store in L.A. and I don't know if you want to hear a long story.
No,
or
go
not,
for it, man.
But we went to the Jimmy Kimmel show, and there's like the guy who's their warm-up guy in between. His name Don Barris, and he's like he called it his Disney job because he's doing it during the day, but he's like a filthy comic at night. And we were yelling out all this stuff at him, and it's just a bunch of us with long hair and beards in the crowd. He's like, "Hey, come to our comedy night. I'll get you in later," And so we went to basically a Comedy Store, saw these up-and-coming comics, some regular celebrities that work on their act there and stuff, and we stayed to the end. And I guess he closes the night out, and he didn't have a backup band, didn't show up, so he got us to come on stage with like Guitar Hero guitars, and I played drums on a 3 stools with drumsticks, and like he was covering like Phil Collins, and like Air Tonight came on, and I had to do that big drum solo.
Yeah.
and he would like make the lyrics dirty and stuff. But I played drums so hard that I woke up the next day and I couldn't move my arms. Like I pulled like a tendon or something. We were on like a couple of days off on tour, and I just overexerted myself drunk at a comedy club.
Is that what you put out as like a press statement? You can't do it.
Yeah, press statement.
So what about actually standing up then and doing jokes?
Us doing a comedy show?
Yeah.
Well, no, we also all had to go up and tell a joke.
So how did you find that? Because
It can be terrifying. I mean, I guess if you're drunk, it's not so much. But I mean, I have the utmost respect for comics because I mean, I'm always standing up there with a guitar in my hand so I can make noise and tell a joke. It's nice to have I hate to say a prop, but another element to it.
Well, you've got something kind of blocking you and the audience, whereas...
I mean, the Way Show is almost like a comedy show. I mean, in the UK they get it. I mean, we're in Europe. We kind of slow the jokes down a little bit in Europe because a lot of it gets lost in translation. But I mean, we just go up there and we riff. I mean, it's all ad lib, you know.
So what about horror? Because I know that's you're a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm actually writing a heavy metal horror movie.
Okay.
I've been writing a script for the last 3 years, and I've got some backing, and I got a partner. The guy that did the last Municipal Waste music video, this guy Norman Cabrera, is teaming up with me. But I've had this script, and I actually worked with a guy who's Scottish. Used to edit for The Guardian. My friend Jamie Thompson and I put it to a screenplay. Like I've had the story for years. I had the outline. I started writing. I teamed up with this partner, and like we just hit the ground running. So I mean, it's basically finished. And now I'm kind of putting the icing on the cake with this effects guy who's going to help me direct it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's a lofty, ambitious project, but something that I want to pull off at least once.
So why horror
this
then?
film.
What is it you like about horror?
Well, I like any horror movie that has heavy metal in it. Like so that like you got movies like Black Roses or Trick or Treat or Shock of Dead, Rocktober Blood. Anything that's got like a band in it,
yeah,
and and a slasher feel is just like, I think for a lot of metalheads, it's like what they crave. So if I just did a movie that had that the whole time, I think it would appeal to a lot of people. Well, I know it will, but I don't know. I think horror's funny. I don't know. It's not scary to me. You know.
Yeah. So you've
I
never
can separate the movie from it, and I think it's cool to have. I'm okay, thanks. This guy's trying to buy me a shot. I find comedy and horror, you know.
So have you never been scared by a horror movie then?
No, I'm not saying I haven't been scared. It's more like the intellectual movies that make you use your imagination, like Exorcist or something that a window is scary, you know, or like the unknowing, like, you know, basically is. But just like a slasher movie, no. I like a lot of Italian horror too. I think it's real tasteful, Argento and all that stuff. So
can you remember the first horror movie you watched? I mean, like you may be too young to watch that movie, and it's kind of like stayed with you.
I remember it's not the first one I ever watched, but I remember seeing Nightbreed when I was really young, and that's got like the Cronenberg scene where like he's the murderer and he kills his whole family. Not his family, he kills a family. And I remember that still being eerie, and that still holds up. But then the movie itself is kind of campy and a little goofy, and you watch it now. But I remember watching that right when it came out and being affected by that. It's still a cool movie, Nightbreed.
So would you act in it? Is that something that you have any interest in? Because I know you do a vlog as well. Like you're, is it Live Fast?
Living Fast, yeah. That's more. Man, yeah, I've done that for about 5 years, but it's really hard to pump out episodes because I'm on tour most of the year. And but man, yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that. Like I could take that into a horror angle, but it's more about like old heavy metal and records and just kind of throwing it all together. People really responded well to it. I just wish I had more time on my hands to make more of them.
What do you make into a podcast?
I thought of doing that, but I honestly, that takes just as much time.
Yeah.
So I did a radio version of it, and it took more time. And I just couldn't do one every week or every month. I mean, I think that's most of my focus is to go into this film more than anything.
I mean, something from watching some of the episodes that you did, the last one you did, you kind of revealed that you worked as a cab driver for a little while just to make a little bit of cash.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Do you think?
Fucked up job.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Especially in Richmond, Virginia.
I was going to say, because I feel cab drivers see the best and worst of the world.
Well, here's what I should do a podcast of. And I mean, I don't think I'm going to get in trouble now because we're in the UK, wherever, but I recorded a lot of my cab sessions.
Really?
And I think that would make a really good podcast because I had a lot of repeat offenders that were insane. And you just know when someone's going to get in there and they want to talk, and then you end up picking them up again, and I already had the tape rolling. So, I don't know. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for that.
Were you a talker then?
I would talk it up.
Yeah?
I would just egg them on to some of them didn't need any help at all.
Yeah. Tell me about that time you murdered that woman.
Oh, I mean, that would make a good podcast. I still might do that one day.
Your own murder mystery of did they do it?
Well, I did drive a murderer away from the scene one time. Like, there was like, no, I'm not even kidding. Like, I got a call from a detective. Like, it's like right when I got the job. Like at this, I don't know. I feel like I'm doing confessions on there. Maybe I've put this in writing before, but just know that a guy just committed double homicide and I gave him a ride, and I didn't realize that till after the fact.
Fuck.
Paying customer.
So did you read it? Like, would you read it in like a newspaper? Like,
no,
dude.
I was contacted by detectives.
Oh, okay, yeah. And they just said, can you take this guy to A to B?
And I go, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't want to be involved.
Yeah, don't blame you. Don't blame
And
you.
I saw a drive-by, and that was the other craziest one. The drive-by shooting right behind me. And I was like, wow, is it worth it? I mean, it's the money. It's not that it was great money to begin with. It was just what I was doing to get by. But wow, it really opens your eyes, man.
Let's talk about something a bit more positive.
Okay.
And you kind of said Bat. Let's talk a little Bat. Because Bat was a band that I didn't know about until literally 2 days ago.
Oh, really? Because you had to research me a little
Yeah,
bit?
so I was researching a little bit. And there's a track, I need to look at my notes because I'm not going to read it off. Is it Way of the Bat?
Beware of the Bat?
Beware of the... That's me not putting the B in.
Well, it's just, the song is actually called Bat, but the video I wrote, because we did a music video for it, I changed it to Beware of the Bat just so you could search it.
Okay,
So
got
you
you.
go bat.
Yeah.
You can find a baseball bat or a bat flapping around.
So you're the front man.
Yeah, I sing
that.
and play bass in that. And
Is that something you've always had aspirations to doing?
Is that what?
Is that something you've always had aspirations
No, I
to do?
never thought of myself as being a singer or a frontman. Yes, because I mean I have I have it in me, but I never fancied myself as a real singer. I just kind of jumped in and did it. And Nick plays in that band as well, our guitar player in Waze. No, I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with writing lyrics more than anything. Like I find that I'll write lyrics before the music a lot in this band.
Yeah.
And I think it really gives a sense of purpose that to build a song around that. So I've really been enjoying that because I like writing, So I've kind of come into my own with that. We got a new EP coming out. I don't know. Ask me a question. I don't know what we're getting at.
It's basically just kind of again understanding of what it was about. Like, is it something that you were like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put all my effort into it and just see where it goes.
I wanted it to be like my old man band, like my Motorhead. Something that I could grow old doing, and that's the.
I don't know if you literally just read my notes, but I did put it. Kind of to me had like a Motorhead vibe to it.
Well, you nailed it on the head. I mean, to me, that's the best band there ever was, with the biggest influence, even outside of music, just aesthetic, and I base a lot is inspired by Motorhead with this band, and I don't know, I think it's just timeless music, Motorhead, I'd like to think bad it would be, but so that's, without trying to be like some other band, I mean, that's definitely as close as it gets for me.
Temperature's rising. You have no more choice. Cursing your blood, taste the pain. Wild fever, straight through your veins. I'm the reaper. Cursing your blood, taste the pain.
You kind of mentioned it earlier on, and you said you didn't really want to talk about it, but I'll push it, and you can tell me to fuck off if you don't want to. You spoke about the Donald Trump T-shirt, and you got kind of brought back into like news because Kathy Griffin.
That was funny as shit.
So people who don't know, Kathy Griffin did a photo shoot where she had Donald Trump's head decapitated, and she basically, her life has just been fucking rubbish since then. I'm sure she's got a lot of like business out of it, but she got a lot of backlash. But
Well, she should never have apologized. That's the first thing she did wrong. If you're an artist and a comedian, you should stand by your art. You're not going to have a picture of him decapitated and they go, "Oh no, I didn't mean it." Like if she stuck to her guns, maybe there'd be more respect for her. I don't know.
But how weird was that with CNN mentioning?
It's just so funny because it's their lawyer just reeling off like, "Well, he didn't bother these guys." Like, yeah, come bother us. See what happens. You know, it's like, maybe he's just a pussy and he would rather attack a woman. I mean, that's probably what it is.
You also got a backlash, like social media backlash.
But I don't read that stuff. I mean, I think we got more positive feedback on that than bad. And if anything, it just weeded out the people that we don't want to be associated with.
So when you did create that T-shirt, did you know automatically like this is going to cause?
No. It was like didn't even think about it. We were going to LA and we had a show and Phil and had the idea and we made like 50 of those shirts to go play LA because that's when they first started talking about the wall. We got a lot of Mexican fans and friends, and so we kind of did it for them. It was like, cool, this is our statement here with the walls. Only walls we build are walls of death, And we made a few shirts and they were just gone like that. And it, went up on the internet. It was said that he was going to sue us and all this like fake viral shit happened.
He probably just wants royalties. That's what he wants.
No, but it didn't, and it just, if anything, it just helped us,
Yeah.
It's the only good thing Donald Trump's ever done is paid the waste a little bit.
Art plays a huge part in your t-shirt. Like, I love your merch because you got some great designs. Is that something that you do in-house? Like, do you have a guy that you go to?
Well, we actually used to. Tony, our singer, used to work at a screen printing shop, so we would print all our own designs early on. That's why we had such a volume of different shirt designs, like right out of the gate. But no, we have a place called Just Say Rock. It's just a regular merch company that prints them. A lot of the artists are our friends. We rotate 10 different artists making stuff for us that that have worked with us since the get-go. It's never the same person. We just try to keep fresh designs going.
Slime and Punishment came out in 2017. You mentioned that you're going to have an EP coming out soon.
Yeah.
Is that a Nuclear Blast or is that
Yes,
something?
yeah, it's a 4-song EP. We haven't done an official press release for it, but I mean, talk about it a little bit, but yeah, it's not out yet.
So what is it just going to be? I mean, what's the vibe of it then? Is it just going to...
It's really fun. It's kind of cool because it's like we're coming into our own as a 5-piece. So it was actually really easy to write music, and we just kind of busted it out right after the last record, and just waiting on artwork right now. I should have the artwork today or tomorrow. The music's all handed in, just... You start talking about these releases, then people get so eager when they're coming out. It always takes longer than the production, to make them come out than you think. So I can't give you a date right now, but just know that it's coming.
Do you have titles? Because a lot of bands
I can't
give
say
it.
that yet.
That's all right.
But that's gotta be a press release.
But as in naming, do you spend a lot of time with naming, or you just go, yeah, fuck it, yeah, call it that?
No, a lot of it, I come up with song titles all the time, and I just have a word bank of song titles. Now it gets distributed between all the bands, so it's like
a WhatsApp.
Stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it's just fun. I mean, that's the fun part for me, man.
Well, I'm going to let you go, Ryan, because I feel like I've taken a lot of your time.
Right on.
And it's been
Can I say something about Mike Davies?
Yeah, you said Mike's...
Because I know the listeners know him. One of the funniest things that happened, we were in Mexico on the first Waste tour. We were heading down to South America. And in Mexico, they do a lot of bootleg T-shirts. So we would go around outside the show and see what cool bootlegs I have, because I just enjoy it, Maybe it gives you an idea for an actual shirt. So we had this one kid, and he had our first album cover, which is our 7-inch, which is like the earliest art on the front. And I flipped over the back, and there was a band photo on the back. And it was me, Tony, Phil, and who they thought was Dave was Mike Davies. Because he kind of maybe looks like Dave. We took a photo at Reddit in Leeds, and I guess that photo was on the internet. They had taken it off the internet thinking it was a band photo, but it's Mike Davies and me, Tony, and Phil on the back of the shirt. And I looked at the kid, I go, you got to give me one of those. Still my favorite shirt that I have. So Mike Davies on the back of a waist shirt.
Have you given one to Mike? Does he know about this?
I don't know if he ever saw it, but I just have the one copy. I'm not coming off of it. So Mike's immortalized on the back of a waist shirt as Dave Whitty.
Well, Mike, I'm sure your royalties somewhere. Well, Ryan, thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, of course.
And, I hope you feel
fun.
better. And all
Right
the
on,
best,
man.
Thank
Take it
you.
easy.
Thank you to Ryan for giving up his time and talking to me, especially when he wasn't feeling so hot shit. He was a bit under the weather. So yeah, thank you to Ryan. Hopefully that EP he's talking about will be out soon. I haven't seen any news of it, but I mean Ryan spoke about it, so hopefully it's out soon. A quick plug for a new short film that's being made by a group of people called Punk Ethics. They have created a new campaign film called Punks Against Sweatshops with contributions from members of Crass, Friend of the Pod, Petrol Girls, Wonk Unit, Propagandy, just to name a few. It's basically what it sounds like. It's a short documentary about punks selling t-shirts and where those t-shirts come from, and are we thinking ethically where we get our t-shirts from. It looks like it's going to be a great film. I'm hoping to talk to the guys and girls who created the movie at some point. Go to Punks in Pub socials to see the trailer, or you can go and check out their own Twitter handle. I think it is just at Punk Ethics, or look at actually in your bio of this podcast, the episode bio. There's a link in there. Click that link. It'll take you straight to the trailer, and you can then spread that far and wide to your friends and peers. Right, that's it for this week. Go buy a t-shirt, support the pod, go tell 4 friends about the podcast, and spread the word. Go rate and review on iTunes, and don't be a cunt. Playing out the show this week is a band from LA. They are called CC Potato. I don't know why they're called that. Maybe tweet them and ask them. This is a track called No Sense of Direction. I dig the band. I think they're really good. If CC Potato are playing in an area near you, definitely go check them out. Right, that's it. If you go into a punk show and you see someone fall down, you pick them right back up. Until next time, bye-bye.
She left on the eve of my birthday. Wish I remember which one. 80 blocks and no sense of direction. What the fuck could go wrong? Brent went missing back in 1998. No one knows where she is to this day. Dye her hair and change her names. Could be living up or buried deep down in a grave. I don't think she had her out in mind. Destination unknown. Hitchhiking up and down the coastline, trying to